The city never quite sleeps, but on certain burned-out afternoons, Mumbai seems to hold its breath. The air felt swollen with rain, but inside my parents' apartment, the only electricity was in the voices rising above the ceiling fan. I stood in the middle of the living room, clutching my presentation printouts, sweating through the olive curtain Ma insisted I wear. Family clustered in archipelagos, the men on sofas, the women in the corners, my brother leaning against the window frame, cradling his chai like a judge holding a gavel. Papaji had called for today's review with a certain gravity, inviting my uncle Ramesh, cousin Lata, even daddy. It was all pretense. For months, whispers had followed every meal. Sayash, the elder son, wants to throw his life away. But I'd begged for a chance. A formal audience for my plan, developing a machine learning model to predict protein folding, the next step toward targeted medicine. I was 23, freshly out of IIT, and convinced brilliance would win me converts. Nonsense, Papaji declared after 3 slides. You want to waste your life guessing how cells fold? Doctor is a real job. We did not raise you for this gamble. Uncle Ramesh snorted. Even if it works, some computer will be smarter than you, already happening in California. No, why you, Sayash? I stood, hands trembling but refusing to hide them. Nobody in India is combining gene data and AI at this scale. We could leapfrog, be first in the world. Lata, all of 20 and a future CA with exam hair, tapped her phone as she smirked. So you'll stop pandemics with one computer like in the movies. Giggles rippled, even Amar avoided my gaze. You've had your fun, Papaji said, voice as final as the monsoons. It's better to see the world as it is, not as you wish. There is nothing noble in starving for fantasy. You know Shrest's brother, he tried some startup in Bangalore, now he's driving Ola, don't be foolish. Fear shrank my lungs, but behind it was something harder, a stubborn refusal to comply. I'm not asking for money, I shot back, too loud, too raw, just permission to try. Daddy, who balanced every conversation with myth and memory, shook her head. Do you know how many dreams Mumbai swallows? Better to stick to the known. The world eats up clever boys. It was over before it began. My project, my aspirations, they laughed, patted me, shut me out. Even as I escaped into the stairwell, their voices chased me, their words settling into my bones. Outside, the city pressed against my chest with all its noise and possibility. I picked up my bag and the printouts, now dog-eared and limp, and kept walking. I told myself I could survive the laughter, but defiance has a way of scarring quieter than cruelty. 2 weeks later, Papaji handed me 2 contact cards, one for a family friend at a diagnostic lab, another for a government job recruitment officer. Safest choices, he said, pushing them toward me at breakfast. I walked instead to Dadar station. The July sky was grey as dishwater, crowds heaving on every platform. I called the number at the bottom of a defunct research grant poster I'd found on a message board. On my 4th try, the phone connected to Dr. Reena Shohari, director of a tiny biotech incubator 3 stations away. We can't pay you, Sayash, Reena began. Sometimes our internet doesn't work. You'll need thick skin. My skin gets thicker every day, I replied, surprising myself. The next morning, I found myself in a humid one-room office above a dental clinic, greeted by a single, outdated server and 3 broke-down PhDs. We worked off battered laptops wheezing under the weight of code. Progress was slow, punctuated by network failures and Debashish's existential rants. Some days, I came home to find my textbooks trashed or my room rearranged. Amar pleaded, then retreated to prayers, perfuming the hallway with incense as if to ward off failure. On worst nights, my brother's derision hurt more than silence, still soldering wires. Or is it world domination today? He stopped inviting me to his cricket matches, as if shame clung to me like grease. Yet slowly, code became structure, datasets grew, and tiny victories tasted like sugar after floodwater. Reena cheered every milestone, a new line of code, a breakthrough in protein mapping, a grant proposal that didn't bounce back as rejected within hours. I survived off instant noodles and hope, each month barely scraping through rent. My phone stayed silent, save for tech support calls and Reena's late-night troubleshooting. When the year turned, a miracle happened. We caught the attention of a mid-tier international journal after submitting a preprint on detecting rare gene mutations. Their email came at 2 a.m. I woke the whole house with my whoop, only to be shushed by Papaji through the door. They didn't even ask what was wrong, but small victories meant little to most. We struggled with funding. Half the lab left or took second jobs, doors closed, grants evaporated. Mumbai's endless competition pressed on me, friends from college left for Europe, the US, places that welcomed wild ideas. One evening, after 3 consecutive rejections, Debashish packed his bag, muttering, "No one here wants us to win." There were nights when I paced Marine Drive, palms raw from frustration, the city lights blurring with the sting of tears. I sometimes dialed home and hung up before it rang. I wanted comfort but couldn't risk hearing "I told you so." Defiance started sounding hollow, a drumbeat against nothing. I thought of giving up more than once. But a deeper voice cut from the memory of that living room refused to die. I let hunger settle in me, not for food, but a hunger to disprove every lazy certainty, every belittling laugh. Insult became fuel. When all but Regina and I remained, we pooled our final savings. We worked days, then nights, stealing sleep on foldable chairs. In some ways, that year chipped away all illusion. Science was not cinematic, it was dogged, lonely, sometimes unclean. I missed birthdays and festivals, yet every time we inched forward, a 0.03% accuracy gain, a visible pattern in a chaos of genetic data, it felt like sunlight through sooty glass. Sometime in late November, everything turned. An international pharma company's Mumbai office learned of our work. They wanted to see proof, a pilot project using our AI to diagnose an inherited blood disorder, spherocytosis, in early childhood. We scrambled, fighting deadline after deadline, surviving on adrenaline and green tea, and a sense that failure was no longer possible. The results staggered even the company's own scientists. We caught cases weeks before standard blood work. For a rare moment, skeptics fell silent. The next months felt like a montage: press interviews, grueling patent applications, company parties, trips to Delhi and Berlin. Sayash the family joke was suddenly Dr. Sayash Kapoor, co-author, co-founder, co-architect of something the world now wanted. Magazines ran my face beneath phrases like India's AI-driven biotech trailblazer. I shook hands with bureaucrats who had once lost my grant applications. Journalists scrambled to photograph the old server that began it all. Recognition is a strange thing. For years, I'd rehearsed a speech for the moment I made it. I expected vindication, joy. Instead, a bone-deep exhaustion accompanied every accolade, the distant echo of voices that never expected I'd last. It was only after a Tex Mumbai talk, standing under white stage lights in a black jacket, hearing strangers cheer, that the idea of coming home crossed my mind in earnest. I called Amma, she was breathless, Papaji wary, but a cousin's wedding was approaching, and by invitation or obligation my return was arranged. Landing in Mumbai, the city's heat pressed against me like a hand, old, familiar, almost loving in its cruelty. The cab crawled up Dada's lanes, past vegetable vendors, chai stalls billowing steam, the aroma of fried snacks seasoned with monsoon mildew. I saw faces I'd grown up with, all slightly flickering with memory. I arrived just before dusk. The building hadn't changed, peeling paint, the echo of a pressure cooker whistle. Amma opened the door with nervous fingers, her eyes taking in the tailored shirt but still looking for the boy who once begged for approval. Papaji was at the window, arms crossed like before. My brother stood up from a sofa, uncertain. Daddy's hair was even thinner, but she smiled with slow, uncertain pride. I greeted everyone in the old order. Respect first, explanation after. Amma pulled me into the kitchen, hands hovering at my temples as if to feel for the fever of ambition. "You have become thin," she said. "And you're on TV all the time, so busy you never eat." Papaji cleared his throat, sat down with Mr. Chowdhury at the temple. "He says he read about you. Is it true your system is working with that hospital in Andhari?" "Yes, Papaji. They adopted it 6 months ago. The results," I fumbled for language, wanting them to really know, but sentences failed. "It's difficult to impress those who watched you stumble." Lata arrived next, a husband in tow, greeting everyone with a conspiratorial grin. "So Mr. Hollywood has returned," she teased, though not unkindly. Dinner was served. Ramesh uncle grilled me under the fluorescent light, the same old skepticism. "So many scams in this science field. All publicity, how do we know your invention works?" "Come and see for yourself," I replied. This time my voice rode a current of patience, not defiance. The opportunity came unexpectedly 2 days later. The wedding had filled the house with outstation relatives and distant acquaintances. In the middle of the festivities, Papaji's friend from the hospital, the same Mr. Chowdhury, turned up holding a letter with the AI system's results. "Baba needs his computer doctor for his checkup," he chortled, waving the printout. Sayash, join us. Suddenly, all the elders, including Papaji and Ramesh uncle, gathered around. I stood in the entryway, watching their curiosity battle skepticism. Papaji gestured for me to explain. I took the report, heart racing as I spoke. This is the test result for the new screens. Using the AI, we detected markers for anemia and rare blood disorders weeks before symptoms would show. This one, I said, pointing to a name on the page, caught early-stage spherocytosis. The family was able to begin treatment before the boy got sick. Papaji glanced from the paper to my face, searching for trickery. You're telling me a computer can see what a doctor cannot? Not possible. I turned to Mr. Chowdhury, who nodded. We've been running Sayash's machine for 4 months, he said. Our pediatric ward hasn't had a single late-stage admission. It's the difference between crisis and prevention. Uncle Ramesh pressed closer, peering at the numbers, lips pursed like he might spit. Is this all real? Not just luck. Mr. Chowdhury handed him a folder of before and after stats. Behind them, Lata's husband, a quiet fellow from Pune, cleared his throat. My niece was on this list, he said. Your system caught something the standard labs missed. She's healthy now. The room fell silent, a hush falling over cynicism. I could see calculation in eyes that once dismissed me. Papaji's posture softened, his hands unclenching on the armrest. Daddy motioned for me. So, the computers helped the doctors, but it's your stubborn head that made the difference. Just enough stubbornness, Daddy, I said, voice shaky. Papaji set aside the folder, staring at his own hands, perhaps seeing in them the years he'd feared for my life and name. Maybe, he offered quietly, I was wrong to discourage. Maybe some dreams are worth starving for. Tears sprung fierce and unexpected. I lowered my face, feeling Amar's hands at my elbow and Daddy's thin fingers patting my back. That night, after the noise of the wedding died down, Papaji sat beside me at the old dining table, nursing a late cup of chai. He watched the city through the window before speaking. Every father's fear is that his son will be broken by hope. I was unkind. You reminded me the world changes even for us. I am proud, Sayash, even if I never said it before. A weight lifted, yet part of me feared that old rejection might shadow every success. I realized then that the battle was never truly against my family or community. It was against the voice inside me that had believed their certainty. The city still pulsed outside, alive with 10,000 dreams, most of them untested, many unloved. Weeks later, as I prepared to leave for another conference, this time invited as a keynote speaker, my family stood together in the doorway. Amar pressed tiffin into my hands along with a list of people to bless. Papaji shook my hand longer than necessary, his grip neither too strong nor too soft. My brother, silent, offered an awkward hug. As the taxi wound back through Dada's tangled lanes, I watched the faces fade into the city. The sting of their old laughter remained, not as a wound, but a scar, proof that dreams do sometimes survive humiliation, so long as you refuse to surrender the smallest part of them. Somewhere far off, true, the city still swallowed dreams whole, but for one stubborn boy and his impossible machine, Mumbai had finally spat hope back in return.